Alright, hello guys and welcome back to the channel, and this video where I will be doing my second Transformers Duel video, and this time it's between 2006 Classics Voyager Jetfire, that very much loved figure, against the more recent. This is the 2014 it's generations Leader Jetfire, Leader class, different size class, different price point, but you know, I'm gonna do my best to compare them as objectively as I can. Now I refer this to my Blur Duel video where I've gone through many of these, but this time I've added a 10th category, the value category. Now, of course, these are, you know, we're comparing a Voyager with a Leader, but I will, you know, I'll do my best to take into account the price that you would have paid for this figure now or at the time that it came out. Okay, so onto the figures themselves. I have here a classic Seeker mold, so I'm going to put that right in the middle there for, you know, that size comparison. You know, obviously that's a relatively short figure, but you can see these guys dwarf the deluxe Seeker mold, and definitely the Leader class. You know, this really scales quite well, I think, with the classics coming up to the waist. That really was roughly what Starscream was when he stood next to Skyfire in the original Generation 1 episodes where he appeared. Okay, so now onto the comparison. The first category that we have here is quality, and I have given so classics on the left corner, generations Leader on the right corner, and I've given quality to classics, and I think that's probably not that controversial. You know, this was 2006, at a time when toys were more robust, at least the Transformers line. You know, you can see the thicknesses of the plastic in the areas where you can see, you know, where the plastic thickness comes through. It's really a more, I guess, a higher quality. You got more of it, and you know, it just felt more solid, I think. Whereas in the modern age Leader class or the modern age generations toys, they're not bad, you know, I gotta say the plastic is not bad, but there's just a certain lighter feel about it, you know, the plastic quality that you can see. And you know, you can see that there's starting to get the shortcuts here, the hollowness. If you take off the accessories, you know, you're getting hollow bits here, which don't do very nicely when they're photographed in the wrong way, in just the right angle. They don't look well. So I think definitely quality wise that one wins. Durability, now I think that's closely related, and I think I really have to again give the slight edge over to the classics. You know, it just is a tougher plastic. There's more of it, so you know, it doesn't feel like it's going to break easily, whereas this one, you know, you may have read reports of durability issues where, you know, the particularly that crotch joint there between the, you know, where the leg joins into the or I guess the hip joins into the waist, that people have reported that will break, notorious for breaking after a few transformations, and there's a certain I guess risk for that. And if you've already got reports of it, well, you know there is going to be an issue with durability. Okay, now robot mode. You know, I've given the edge to the Generations Leader figure. Why? Well, I think the classics figure is you know, a very nice looking robot. I think it had a lot of things going for it and was much loved. You know, good posability, but there were weaknesses. You know, that it had a toyetic look. You know, you can look at, if you look at the wrong angles, it just looks like there's a bit of kibbliness and thickness going on there. The feet, you know, not the best feet really. They were the jets that opened up into this kind of feet, and it's not the most stable feet. So, you know, certainly there are weaknesses in this particular robot mode, but it is a much loved robot mode, and I really have used this Jetfire as a very staple figure in my display. So, you know, it gets a solid 8. So, you know, just going through the scores, you know, I think quality 9 versus 7, durability 8 versus 7, and robot mode, it gets a solid 8 for the classics, but I'm going to give a 9 to the Generations Leader, because this is a really, I think, a good looking robot mode. You know, it just evokes so much of the media that Jetfire has been in recently, IDW, and even the earlier IDW comics, not the current issues, but the earlier ones in the 6-figure arcs. You know, it looks good from the back as well, and this part, you know, of course, can rotate into you know, huge cannons up the top here, which I don't. I guess I prefer not to. I prefer to have him more like this. But you know, it looks good all the way around. You got that homage with that rounded off nose, which the G1 cartoon model had. You know, good looking arms. Posability wise, it does have ratchets on the, you know, solid ratchets, which is plus or minus. It does mean that you're limited in the width of the stance, whereas this one, it doesn't have ratchets on the hips there, so you can stand him, I guess, unlimited adjustment in the width there. But you know, I think for looks, in terms of robot mode, how the silhouette, I do like this guy more. You know, keep in mind that as objective I'm trying to be here, there's going to be subjectivity to these things. Okay, transformation. So I'm gonna now pause the video, give them a transform, and then we'll come back with the vehicle modes and transformation comment. All right, and here we have Classics Jetfire and Generations Jetfire in their respective jet modes. Now, what do I think of the transformation? I think it's quite close. I think they're both quite involved. The Classics one is a bit simpler and a bit more rudimentary. It kind of just folds up into the typical, you know, you can see his legs and arms there. And it's almost, you know, when you talk about Transformers plane, it's almost, the excellence is achieved when you can detract from that, you know, robot kibble under a plane top type of trick. So this doesn't quite detract from that, but it's still a fun little transform. There's little bits of involvement, particularly in the forming the nose, you know, those two bits coming together at the front. I think it's good. Strength is that there's no parts forming, even though, you know, these bits these bits can come off, the missile launchers on the arm. They don't have to come off for the transformation, and neither does the backpack. So, you know, I think there's positives, and then particularly it's got a kind of a unofficial Gerwalk, you know, half plane, half robot mode, which I won't show you here, but you know, that adds a bit of fun to it. So I'm going to give that a solid 8, and perhaps a little bit of a slight edge over 8 as well because of that Gerwalk mode. Now, Leader Jetfire is a bit different, you know, not as much the typical kibble former, although you can still see his arms there. It's a little bit, I think, overall less recognizable, particularly if you just take, you know, that front bit there, less recognizable as a robot under the plane. So, you know, and streamlining, you know, side view, can't see the arms there. The back looks pretty good, you know, almost like, you know, those tops of the shoulders form jets. And the overall jet mode, I think, is you know, is good looking. So, you know, I think the transform is also fun. I'm going to make it quite close, 8 and 8 for transformation. Vehicle mode, now that's a slightly different story. I think this, I really like how the plane is. You know, it's got a real transformer look to it. You know, it's artificial. It's not like any real world plane, but it's fun. It's got that, you know, that outrageous backpack, and you know, and really that look at the bottom. So, you know, I think there's a lot of nostalgia to the Valkyrie, the Macross Valkyrie. This evokes a lot of that, so I'm still going to give that an 8, even though it's not the best looking plane in terms of being real and slick. This, on the other hand, I think is one of the best plane modes out there for Transformers. You know, particularly at the top. You know, there's not many planes that look as sharp and real as this one. This one you could really, you know, it's got the intake, you know, intakes at the front here. Good looking cockpit. That I gotta add that it opens. It's quite tight. I won't open it here, but you know, you can rest assured that there's a hinge there. You can see the hole there, and it does actually open. So you know, there's a bit more playability there. This one kind of flips open for transform, not really an opening cockpit. This one does as an independent cockpit. It cheats a bit, of course. There's a false cockpit at the bottom there for the chest, and a bit of kibbling, but I think overall one of the better looking planes. So that gets a 9. Accessories. Now, accessories. I gotta love this guy. I think in the scale of Transformers history, at least 21st century history, is what I'm more familiar with. You know, the 2 missile launchers on the arms, the gun that separates out into 2 pieces, that super backpack, you know, and I'll just quickly show how it functions here. So you can slide this bit back and lock in the gun by sliding that forward, and then release it that way. You know, just the playability, removable. You know, again, those are removable. I think these accessories are second to none. You know, this is, and the guns are positional, able to be positioned in the robot mode. You know, it's got these pistols or little cannons at the side of his helmet if you wear his helmet. I think accessories second to none. I'm going to give it a 10 because I can't imagine any Transformer that I have, you know, beating that in accessories. This one's pretty good. You know, I'm going to give that an 8. It's got a removable, you know, the jetpack at the back. It's got, you know, these side guns that either put under the wing or at the side of this, or on his arms in robot mode. And of course, it's got the gun as well that can go under the nose. I think that looks silly, so I don't like putting that under the nose in the plane mode. So that's a solid 8 because you get quite a lot of playability out of it. Okay, finishing. I think this is a close battle. I think this looks sharp with the blacks. It's obviously got some, you know, touches all over the place in terms of paint. It's even got silver on the face. If I can, you know, oh, I can't. It's under the helmet there. I won't display that, but you know, you can see the silver on the face. It's got the blue eyes. Classic Jetfire. You know, plenty of, well, not plenty, but you know, enough detailing, I think, around the place to make it clear what figure this is, and give the patterns there. This one has slightly less, I think, overall paint, but you know, it's sharp. Look at that. Look at that Autobot decal there. You know, look at the details under the, you know, under that transparent bit. There's silver paint there. The finishing on the, this is controversial. I think I prefer the Japanese version where it's matte. I don't really like the chrome, but it is what it is. They've you know, there is work that's been put in there, so you know, it's also a pretty fine job. I'm going to give both of them an 8. You might argue that maybe this one's slightly better because it's just sharper and more coherent. Design and style. Okay, now overall styling, I think this looks a lot more real. I think the robot mode silhouette looks better. I think the plane silhouette looks better. I think the styling design is excellent. But this one is it's just got that outrageous 80s toy type of feel, you know, that is unashamed about itself. I also enjoy this style a lot. Evokes, I think this one evokes slightly more of the original Macross toy, and some cues of this actually, interestingly enough, I think evokes the G1 more for me. Whereas this one's just so clean, so slick and good looking in that way. So I think they're very close. I can't separate them. I'm going to give them both a 9. So that's my opinion of design, you know, design and style there. Okay, so that's what we have so far. Now value. Just to remind, I think Voyagers back in the day that this came out, when I read about American prices, I think they paid 20 USD. These days, I guess if you were buying Voyager at the same time as this, Big Bad Toy Store was listing them at $26, whereas this was a $40 figure. So that's what you're comparing: $26 Voyager, $40 Leader at the time that I bought this. And you know, you've seen my answers there. I've given 8 to the Voyager because I think you just get a bit more for your money, whereas $40 gets a bit more diluted. You know, we've talked about the pros and cons, and I think you know, it's a 7 for value for that. It's an 8 for this particular figure. Now the last one, the X factor. You know, what is it that I guess harkens back to media or just something special about the figure? I think this one has been with me for so long. It's been so talked about. It was, you know, much lauded when it first came out. It just did so much. I think this edges out. Now giving that a 9, whereas that still gets a pretty respectable mark because it's such a good design. It's such a I guess it's so evocative of the current media. I think I really like this as well, but also because of the edging out in the transformation, the girl walk mode. I think the finishing may be just an edge better, a half a point better. I'm going to have to say 9 for that in the X factor, and an 8 for the generations. So there we have it. That's the 10 categories, and if you've been adding up, you kind of get scores already. Sorry, I hand wrote those in, but 85 for 2006 Classics Voyager Jetfire, 80 for the generations Leader Jetfire. You know, they're both great figures, but you know, I guess how definitive this is was surprising to me. I didn't look at the scores independently, and you know, gave them as close to independent scores as I could in each category, and I'm somewhat surprised that this was quite significantly and convincingly ahead. 8 years older, but gosh, this is still such a great figure. So there we have it, my comparison duel between the Classics Voyager and the Generations Leader Jetfire. I hope you've enjoyed it. Let me know what you think, what your scores are, if you have an opinion on these two figures. Thank you again for watching this far. Subscribe if you want to keep in touch. Give us a like, of course. And as always, I will see you guys next time.